Nabiyullah, Habibullah, Munirullah, Ya Nabi Allah, Kalimullah, Abdullah, Al-Amin, Ya Nabi
Nabiyullah, Habibullah, Munirullah, Ya Nabi Allah, Rasulullah. Mercy for mankind, peace for mankind, love for mankind, Ya Nabi Rasulullah.
Rasulullah, 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 Rasulullah Muhammadun.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. May the peace and blessings of Allah be on us all. We have met once again today on this our channel, and we are bringing to you a special program. We have two very respected panel, Alhaj Irbard Ibrahim, whom you know already, someone who has been on a lot of channels in Ghana, especially when it comes to matters about peace and security. And then also we have another respected person, Nana Berima Aduchum the First, who is the Nkoswahini of Gomua Mangwasi traditional area, and known in private life as Sadiq Aduchum. He's also a security consultant, a former Navy, but unfortunately we haven't gotten him yet. As we are on the program, if he comes, we'll join him on the program. So today's program, as you can see, is terrorism threat to Ghana and the way forward. Recently, almost all the security ministries, Ministry of Defense, National Security Ministry, and then also Ministry of Interior came together to launch a program to create awareness for all Ghanaians to say something when they see something. We have also seen religious leaders in the country cautioning their people about the threat of terrorism, the imminent threat of terrorism in the country. Particularly, we know that the National Chief Imam has instructed Muslims to be on the lookout, and we have heard that they are installing security cameras and so on and so forth. When it comes to the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the Amir and missionary in charge of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Ghana has also sent a message across to Ahmadis to also watch out and be concerned about the security of themselves and the nation at large. So we are doing this program to create more awareness and to bring to our attention of what the National Security Minister, the Ministry of Defense, the government is trying to do. And that is that if you see something, say something. And just to draw your attention to the fact that they have even launched a calling platform that you can call when you see something which you think that it is not going on well as far as security is concerned, which is 999. You can call. So we have our brother Irbard to join us, and he will help us to explain what Ghanaians should do. Brother Irbard, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Imam, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing very well. How about you?
I'm doing great. Walillah alhamd.
Alhamdulillah. So we are very grateful for accepting to help us to bring some awareness to our nation as far as security is concerned. You are the ones that are experts when it comes to matters like this. We recently saw a launch by the government of bringing awareness to the people and telling them that if you see something, say something, and that has got to do with security and the imminent threat of terrorism in the country. We know that Ghana is a very peaceful country, and this seemed to be something alien to us. So what's going on?
I think the recent increase in level of awareness in the Republic of Ghana and the larger West African sub-region is a melange or mixture of a few factors. We know that in terms of the strategy of some of these militant organizations, of course, their understanding of the return of the Khilafah ala minhaj al-nubuwah is that it has to be military. And so they think that just as at some point the Ummah raised an army to smash Byzantium, which was the eastern bloc of the Roman Empire and also the Persian Empire, they believe that in this century of ours, and I think even from the second part or the third, third quarters of the last century, I think from the 1970s upwards, there seems to be a notion that you can use, the barrel of the gun and other forms of military tactics to tackle what is happening now. Because in Arabic, there is a common mantra that ما يؤخذ بالقوة لا يرد إلا بالقوة. What is taken away with force is not returned except with force. So from Bin Laden to all other groups, you see them make a reference to a loss of Jerusalem, Quds. And we all know the religious significance of Jerusalem to Muslims, looking at what happened in the Isra and the fact that that was our first Qibla before Allah turned the face of the Prophet to the Haram in Mecca. Allah says in the Quran, قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ فَأَيْنَمَا تَكُونُوا فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرَهُ. Indeed, we Allah see you, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, turn your face into the sky, waiting for a wahy from Allah about a decision to change your Qibla, because you are facing the Qibla where Jews still hold a lot of clouds. Then we will soon turn you to a Qibla you will be contented with. So wherever you are, turn your face to the Haram, which is in Mecca, and wherever all Muslims are in the world, we should do the same. So since these are inherent issues embedded in our history, and during the early part of the struggle, some of these militant organizations were talking about the fact that we had lost Al-Quds and others. So they broadened the discussion further. In Africa, apart from Somalia and also the war in Algeria, Africa to a large extent was, found such attacks quite alien. But gradually, with the advent of technology, with the advent of social media, with the advent of digital media, and the battlefield was moved, because when September 11 happened and Afghanistan was attacked in October 2001, Africans were thinking of Afghanistan as a far off place. We never assumed that the threat would come anywhere close.
Yeah.
But we all agree, when ISIS became strong, when Boko Haram came striking in the sub-region, not only Nigeria, Cameroon, Niger, and other areas, the threat seems quite more imminent. than we thought. And you remember in 2015, a university student of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology actually traveled to Syria to go join one of those militant organizations.
Yeah.
So, therefore, Imam, the recent concern you see that has been raised by the security agencies is in line with the imminence of the threat. In recent times, we know since the toppling of Gaddafi in Libya, some of the weapons within his armories have found themselves within the Sahel and then the larger West African region. And militant organizations thrive in a conducive environment where a state is a failed state or it is a failing state. And Burkina Faso, since the toppling of Blaise Compaoré, has not been a sovereign state. There are portions of the country the central government does not have complete control over. So they thrive in on unsurveilled, unguarded territory. So therefore, they have found safe haven within Burkina Faso. And we all know that Ghana shares a border with Burkina Faso. So Ghana's intelligence and security agencies think that based upon the signals they are picking, it is important to be frontal with the issue and confront it head on by telling the Ghanaian people the reality on the ground. You know, we are very religious people. Christians and Muslims always say, oh, as for Ghana, Allah loves us. Nothing like that can happen. The security and intelligence agencies have found it necessary to start psyching us up. See something, say something. It's not a red flag to indicate that Ghana will be attacked next week. But I think it's a psychological, strategy by the security agencies that we are not immune from some of the attacks that are happening within the sub-region, especially when a country like Togo, that has so far never been attacked by a militant organization, we are told was attacked recently, and some 8 soldiers were killed also. And so I would want to tell Ghanaians we are into this security and intelligence business. Normally, when information is thrown out into the public domain like this, if care is not taken, instead of being aware, Ghanaians may, embrace fear and panic. And we've tried our best to allay the fears of Ghanaians because these groups will win if you are no longer able to step out of your home to go to the office. These groups will win if you say you won't go to the mosque again. These
Yeah.
groups will win if you say you will not go to the church again. So we encourage people to carry out their routine activities, but let's all be vigilant so that we can share whatever suspicious movement there is close to a church, close to a mosque, close to a mall, and I'm particularly informed their imam that some of these, buses, commercial buses, come from Paga all the way to Kumasi and Accra. But everybody knows that when you take a commercial bus in Ghana, nobody screens your luggage.
No.
So can you imagine if only 5 kilograms or 2 kilograms of an IED, improvised explosive device, is put in the undercarriage of a bus? 20, 30 people are dead. So I would want to urge people not to be looking at the Parliament House or Burma Camp or Accra Mall or Kumasi Mall as those juicy targets. Some of these groups will attack where you least expect. And so the campaign should be far reaching enough and so that everybody will be vigilant to keep Ghana safe from these
Yeah.
attacks.
Um, Thank you very much for particularly your last point that you raised, because most times people would be looking at elsewhere when they have to be looking very close to themselves. So it is very important that you brought that point up. Um, Nana, assalamu alaikum. Kindly unmute if you can hear me. Hello. I guess he's still traveling, so he cannot hear me. So, as I was saying, it is very, very important that you brought that point up. And this is something I was listening to the Minister of Defense, Dominic Nitiwul, and he seemed to have I mean, the government seem to have done a lot of things as far as security is concerned, where they are mounting some um, military camps and so on and so forth. But we know that the borders of the country are so porous such that one can even walk through the border to the other end and come back. So if there is something that someone has, want to do, it is so easy that the person can just go and do the thing and then leave the country back to wherever he came from. How do we, especially people living across the borders, around the borders, how should they be on the lookout, and what should be their actions when we know of these kind of borders we have?
Some years ago, Imam, I sat on a TV program with the then spokesperson of the Ghana Immigration Service, Pam Betty. I think he's been moved to the National Identification Authority now.
Okay.
As of that time, that was when Kenya was attacked. You know, there was an attack in which we lost a former Council of State member, Professor Wono. It happened in Nairobi at a mall called Westgate Mall. And
Yeah.
later I had to travel to Kenya and I presented a paper on counterterrorism. And I and others were taken to the mall to look at what happened and see the kind of preparation they are doing to foil any possible repeat of that attack. And so, with the issue of the porosity of our borders, how do you safeguard hundreds of kilometers of territorial frontier? It is so difficult. And mind you, since independence in 57, none of these countries had ever slept to think that a day would come where they will face an asymmetric threat. You know, warfare is conducted in two ways. Many armies in Africa prepare for a conventional response for an attack on their sovereignty. So you see that soldiers are deployed their armored vehicles. But this is asymmetric warfare. It is disproportionate. So two, three people are kept in an apartment and trained on how to shoot. Then they are set loose. They are unleashed onto a country. So with one or two AK-47 rifles, they can gun down 50, 60, 70. And recently we saw in Ondo State in Nigeria the number of people who were killed in a church attack.
Mm-hmm.
So we've never been prepared for something like this.
Yeah.
That is why I hold brief for our border controls, customs, immigration, national security response at the borders. We never thought of a threat as imminent as this one. So it will be very difficult. As of that time, when I sat on the program with the former GIS spokesperson, he said there were 42, up
Mm-hmm.
to 42 approved
Wow.
and unapproved routes coming into Ghana.
Wow.
So with even 20,000 or 30,000 soldiers dedicated to these 42 routes, how are we sure that we can block every hole? So I have made a recommendation that the most imminent threat, of course, because of the Hausa influence on the spread of Islam in Ghana, we are concerned about Boko Haram. But for Boko Haram operatives to reach Ghana, they have to cross two countries. They would have to cross Benin and cross Togo before they get to
Benin,
Ghana.
Togo. Yeah.
But for
Mm-hmm.
but for Burkina Faso, I'm sure when you drive from Ouagadougou for a few hours, when you even drive from villages that
You
are
are entering
border
Ghana.
areas, we are talking about a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
So it is important that we concentrate. I'm happy you've made a point that FOBs are being established, forward operating bases, because we are not a rich country. We can't set up, full-fledged military bases everywhere. But you can set out, sentinels, watchtowers, short places where you can keep a squadron of soldiers or military people or security personnel to keep watch and all that. I think it's a good point you have raised, and we need to encourage that. And Imam, Before the white man came, a Burkinabe of the Upper Volta who was a Moshi did not see any difference between himself and a Moshi in the Gold Coast. And so I've recommended that we should have written quite copiously in the daily graphic because there is a column on security and international relations I write on called Global Perspectives. That let's involve the chiefs of ethnic groups that run across the two borders. It is very, very important because no matter how prepared we are with technological gadgets, human intelligence is the most important, variable in the equation of security. So the Boko Naba and then the Moshi Naba on the other side, Baga Naba or Wura or however they are called in those northern areas, we need to incorporate them into the response mechanism against any potential attack coming from Burkina Faso. But if we make it a brick and mortar thing, the more soldiers we pump there, the more secure we feel we'll be taken unawares. So I agree, Imam. Smuggling takes place, the borders are porous and all that, but the response is imminent. If somebody tells me we need 3 months to seal off the whole border, it's not possible. Not even Trump was able to seal off the American border with Mexico, with all the resources at his disposal.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so we need quick
Speaking
fixes.
speaking
What
about speaking about involving chiefs and then the kings in these border areas, we also know that sometimes there is this tribal tension, tribal, I don't want to say that there is war, but we all know, for instance, a place like Boko, as you brought up, few times we have seen that there are some tensions that rise up in such places. How possible, and mostly these tensions are between the chiefs, how possible will these chiefs be ready, or how are they able to, will they be able to help the security agencies when within themselves there is this tension and this little fight going on within them, and yet they are also on our borders.
in Boko, for example, God forbid, if there is a terrorist attack and a bomb goes off in the market, I'm not sure the bomb will differentiate between a Kusasi victim and a Mampushi victim.
No.
These are the kind of messages we need to communicate to the chiefs. We are living in extraordinary times, and it is important to put aside these ethnocentric differences and look at the larger good of their people. And as I indicated, Imam, when you create a fertile ground for terrorism to thrive, it will easily blossom in such an area. So, already, if there is tension between these ethnic groups, if care is not taken, and mind you, whether we like it or not, and there is a certain idea that this is jihad by those who are carrying out these attacks. And so, where an ethnic group feels that it needs external support, and a majority of its followers are Muslims, if care is not taken, if both Kusasis and Mampusis lose confidence in the state in resolving this ethnic group, at some point it will be a dog eat dog kind of situation where everybody will try to scrape whatever military support they can get from anywhere in terms of weapons, strategy, expertise, mercenaries, and all that. And these militant organizations are flush with cash. Sometimes they pay their fighters more than regular armies pay their soldiers.
Yeah, that's true.
They have a lot of cash.
Yes.
So if care is not taken and we don't involve these chiefs and make them understand the imminence of the threat, and they continue with these squabbles, if care is not taken, some of their youth will be won over. So that is why the de-radicalization effort should have social, perspectives, it should have political, perspectives. There should be contours of religiosity. And between us as Muslims, the various sects would also need to come together and then act, act together as a team to be able to create a well, you know, well-fashioned strategy to tackle the imminent threat we are facing. I don't think there can be a one-tier strategy. It should be a multifaceted strategy that brings Amir, for example. And we know that many of these militant organizations take place where there is marginalization, as you have indicated. How do we take good health care? How do we get versions of Hamas in those areas? Because when people are well educated and they understand the true teaching of Islam, they won't go into a church to shoot people.
No.
In our history, for those who do not know, we are very close to the people of the book. Many a times Allah would refer us to them. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of the reminder if you did not know. And in the first hijrah of the early Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ asked them to go to Abyssinia, present day Ethiopia, where Najashi was the king. He said, go there. There is a Christian king under whose reign there is no injustice. So in our time of distress, Christians provided us refuge. When Nebuchadnezzar defeated the Jews, he burnt the whole of Jerusalem. When the Romans also defeated them in AD 70 after Christ, they destroyed Jerusalem. When in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, we captured Jerusalem, we didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
We didn't pull down the places of worship. This is the kind of shared history we need to tell people of all faiths. We have the National Peace Council, we have the regional houses of chiefs. I want to see these groups, the National Commission for Civic Education, NCCE. But if you put soldiers in front of such a response or strategy, it will fail. You don't have more sophisticated soldiers than America, but America was hit. You are not better than Spain. Spain was hit in 2004 in the Madrid bombings. You are not better than London. London was bombed in the 7/7 bombings in 2005. You are not better than Indonesia. The Bali attacks took place in Indonesia. Australia has been attacked. All nations that are better equipped in terms of security have been attacked. So it means there can't be a one-way traffic security response to this challenge. And I believe that all hands should be on deck, all groups should be brought on board, so that this see something, say something thing does not remain a nominal strategy on paper, or if you see something, just call. How are we incorporating local imams into the strategy? How are we incorporating local pastors into the strategy? How are we incorporating youth groups into the strategy? I believe that is the trajectory to take so that we'll be able to fend off any potential attack on the Republic of Ghana.
Yeah. Thank you very much for these important points, and also bringing up this NCC into the discussion. Throughout the discussion, I haven't heard anyone. I have watched a lot of videos on these launch of the security agencies. I have heard a lot of security analysts speak, but throughout, I haven't heard anyone bringing up the NCCE. I haven't heard anyone bringing up the local imams and pastors. And you were right. These are the people who are with their subjects. Their subjects love them, they listen to them, and they revere them. And it is surprising that people will be talking about security, will be talking about peace, and they want the people to understand this. They want the people to get this message, yet will take these important personalities out of the equation. It is sometimes I wonder how they really want the people to get the message. Is it only to sit on TV to tell the people and you think that the people get the message? Sometimes the people even get the message through the TV, but they don't take it. But when their local imams or their pastors come to tell them that this is what we must do, they take it as if. So it is very good you brought that up. But for the national, the NCCE, what role do they have to play, particularly when it comes to security? For me, it is hard to hear them. I don't hear them at all. Sometimes when we were young, we used to see cars with some speakers on, giving announcements, but now it seems that they are almost sleeping. So what advice will you give, that what should they be doing as far as education, as far as getting students to understand security is concerned?
Imam, you and I won't say we are bloomers, baby bloomers. We are not, people who were born in the 2000s. Maybe we were born in the second half of the latter part of the second half of the last century. We are 80s born, maybe late 70s born, and all that. And at least, even if we were children in the 80s, we saw the transition from a military regime in Ghana into a full-fledged democracy. And please read my lips, Imam. Our kind of democracy even makes us more divided as a country, and a single attack will be a political bonanza for any party in opposition. So we are a divided country. We are split in half. Right now, if there's a terrorist attack, you'll see the spin. You remember the Gitmo 2 when they were brought here on humanitarian grounds. If you followed the debate, the party that is in power now, which was in opposition, what did they not say about the Gitmo 2? Some of us came out and said, these guys are harmless, nothing will happen. And you saw the backlash. We were coming as professionals to give advice that it was a foreign policy decision based on humanitarianism. You saw the attacks we came under. We were subjected to a lot of attacks.
Yeah.
Because in that issue of insecurity, real or perceived, somebody wanted to win a political point. And the tables have turned now. If the current government is not lucky and a single terrorist attack takes place now, the opposition party, which was in power at that time, will also capitalize on it for political gains. So the NCCE has become a pale shadow of its former self. It is so weakened, these politicians are looking at pumping money where they will get political capital. So they have no business with public address systems going to the hamlets, the hinterlands, the market squares to educate people. At the end of the day, they will ask, what is in it for the party? But in the late 80s, in the 90s, as young people going to primary school and middle school, we saw how instrumental NCCE was. Look at the nature of programming we even have on television, Imam. In the 90s, you could have experts, people who were public servants come to us in the morning on GTV to educate us. Our parents would leave the house to go to the office fired up with patriotism, trying their best to see what they can do for the country. But now we are served a heavy dose of partisanship every morning before we go out to work. So at any point in time, 50% of the country is loyal and 50% is waiting for doom and gloom to befall the state. So in this, how do you expect NCC to have space on radio, on television, to educate us on the issues that matter the most? It's about this party A has done this, party B has done this, and we spend hours discussing these things. So the NCC has lost its relevance. So at this heightened moment of a potential terrorist attack, I would want to see the NCC reactivated. They have engaged some of us in recent times. I remember they engaged me in a de-radicalization or youth-oriented program. We went to one of the most deprived communities in Ghana, Choko, along the coast of Ghana. I was, quite excited. We had a very fruitful engagement. But you can see they are ill-equipped, they are under-financed, understaffed. They will not be able to do the kind of campaign we need. Ceremonial press conferences will not keep Ghana safe from a terrorist attack. We need to marshal all the state institutions, including the NCC, to be able to tackle this and create the needed public awareness.
Yeah, thank you very much. You spoke earlier on about, and we have about 7 minutes to bring our program to a close. You spoke earlier on about the where the terrorist groups thrive, and you were speaking about how they are funding and how they are recruiting youth who are having nothing to do. And we know that these kind of things do thrive where there are economic hardships. Like you mentioned, this university student who was recruited into one of the terrorist groups, during that time, the discussion that were going on, one item that I saw throughout the discussion, all those who made the discussion, was about the hardship of the people, joblessness, unemployment, and so on and so forth. Today, from that time till now, we still have a huge unemployment problem. Of course, we are not hearing about graduate unemployment anymore. I don't know if it still exists, but we still are hearing a lot of people crying for jobs. And we know that when the hand has got nothing to do, Satan can pull you to do anything for him. So, in this situation, and also seeing what is going on around the world, the hardships going on all over, it is sometimes I tell some friends that it is not only in Ghana. Yes, Ghana may have some extended hardship, but it looks like it is all over the world. What message do you have for us as far as the economy is concerned in relation to, security?
You see, every human being has got survival instincts. When Maslow was itemizing the basic needs of a human being, he mentioned food, shelter, and clothing. Imam, even look at the way we have conducted the anti-Galamsey operation. Young people who have eked out a living for years, going into the alluvial rivers and then going into the bush. Then suddenly we come and say, okay, don't do that work again, without any alternative. If you say a person should not take alcohol, give the person an alternative.
Yes.
If you say a person should stay from haram, you provide halal.
Yeah.
So from the very beginning, we are only lucky. Terrorists seem to be, or these militant organizations seem to have a certain religious or doctrinal bias. If not, Galamsey areas would have been easy recruitment areas for them right now.
Yes. That's true. That's very true. Because when I was listening to the Minister for Defense, Dominic Nitiwo, one of the things that came up was that it looks like these terrorist groups even like the places where there are these kind of activities, where there are Galamsey operation going on, and that is where they come and even set up because they need money, and so it's very true.
Yes, so I believe that as a country, we are leaking buckets. We are perforated with so many holes. It will take divine providence from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look, no matter what we claim we are doing, go to the mall, for example. When you go to the mall, no proper security checks. Today, if terrorists should come to Ghana, today, if you even want to rent a house, that is less than 1 kilometer from the Jubilee house. If you have cash, nobody checks your background. Just go and pay and then go into. And there are areas close to Parliament House, close to the Jubilee House, where people can set up and ambush and hit these sensitive installations.
Yeah.
We have said time and again, ya Imam, no stranger should be allowed into an apartment without the needed clearance from national security. Who cares about it? The landlady is only interested in the money. The landlord is
Yes.
interested in the money. The real estate agent who has brought the person. Now they don't want foreigners more than local people, because the local people will say, "Oh, please, I beg you, there's no money, I can't renew my rent." They prefer the foreigners. And Ghanaians should take note. These groups are not haphazard. They don't just get up and then shoot in the dark. They are very deliberate. They do their feasibility studies. They look at the weaknesses in your system before they strike.
Yes.
So I believe this, I can't say it's so loud, but it's like we are just scratching on the surface. The deep seated issues are still with us.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe this is not a conversation we can exhaust in one session. I believe as much as possible, as the threat continues to evolve, we need to, educate people. I was at national security this week. We are trying to also get hotels to also increase or beef up their security. So they need to get body scanners. They have to screen people before they come, because these groups want to make international headlines.
Yes.
So I believe that it is important that we get to understand the strategies of these groups and continue to update the kind of public education we do. There's no straight jacket. If in Kenya they attack the mall, it doesn't mean they will advertise that if they attack Ghana, it will be a mall. They will
That's true.
attack where we least expect. So everybody should be vigilant, and we need to volunteer any information that would be helpful to the intelligence and security community to protect Ghana.
Thank you very much. And bringing the program to a close, I just want to tell our viewers that recently, I'm just reminding you that recently the security agencies launched a program, and they are telling us to say something when we see something. When you see anyone you don't know doing things that you don't understand, they are telling you that call 999. It is a number designated for security, so that the security agencies would come and see whatever is going on. It is very important. Do not, overlook anything, because as our brother is saying, they can take you by surprise. So it is very important that you do this. Um, there is one last thing that we did not talk about, but as you rightly said, we will do another program about the illegal ammunitions and arms that are produced in the country. Sometimes they are already done before the security agencies are even aware of them. Like when I was listening to the Minister of Defense, he mentioned that there were certain ammunitions that were seized from some group of people, and one of them can even kill about 50 people. And this was manufactured in Ghana. And I'm surprised that people will be able to do this when the security agencies are not aware. We know that in Kumasi and other places, there are people who are able to manufacture guns, and they seem not to be that, operated, and they do things haphazardly. I don't know if you have about 1 minute to say something about it before we come to a close. What exactly should Ghanaians be doing or be looking out when it comes to these kind of things?
Yet again, some years ago, yeah, Imam, I sat with the then executive secretary or so of the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons. This is a state recognized institution that tracks the movement of weapons that can be handled easily within the jurisdiction. as at that time, not even now. And there were certain statistics out in the public domain that between 2.5 and 3 million guns
Wow.
were in civilian hands.
Wow.
So
2.5 to
if we
3 million.
assume that our population is, yes, 2.5 to 3 million. So if you assume that Ghana's population is 30.8 million and there are 3 million guns, it means when you count every 10 or 11 Ghanaians, one has a gun.
Yes. That's true.
See what the NRA, the gun lobbyists, have caused the United States of America. See what people are doing with guns in the US, going to kindergarten schools and shooting children.
Yeah. Very sad.
We have recommended time and again that if we don't regularize and monitor the local manufacture of guns, these artisans at Swami Magazine in Kumasi, Alavanyo and Nkonya in the Volta region will continue to manufacture and have a lucrative market on the black market.
Mm.
So some years ago, I made a recommendation that instead of, considering their activities illegal, have an inventory or database of those who have this skill. Monitor what they do, monitor how they sell and who they sell to. Because it's a matter of survival. Before the white people even came here, our great-great-grandparents were hunters.
Yeah. So it means guns
So there's
were
that basic
used in the
expertise.
primary.
Yes, so there's that basic expertise. So we need to only hone that expertise, regularize it, and make sure that we can monitor. If not, these guns that are used for armed robbery may eventually be used for terrorist attacks. Well, may Allah protect us.
Amin, amin, amin. Jazakumullah khairan, Brother Irbaz. And we are also praying for you because recently we saw a program that you are doing about betting, which was a very good program. I guess because of your busy schedule, you have brought it down a little bit, but I was very happy when I saw that program. We have to do a special program on that, and inshallah, that was a good thing that we have to conscientize the Ghanaian youth about. So may Allah bless you for accepting to join us. Unfortunately, our other panel could not join us because he's still traveling. So may Allah bless you. Jazakumullah khairan.
Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa iyyakum. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah ya Imam.
Nabiyullah, Habibullah, Munirullah, Ya Nabi Allah, Kalimullah, Abdullah, Al-Amin, Ya Nabi,
Nabiyullah, Habibullah, Munirullah, Ya Nabi Allah, Rasulullah. Mercy for mankind, peace for mankind, love for mankind, Ya Nabi Rasulullah.
Rasulullah, 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 Rasulullah Muhammadun